The topic of mental health disorder is implicitly a taboo. While no one actually advises to not acknowledge one's troubles, it contradicts the ideas of positive thinking, or Neville Goddard's living from the end, in a very obvious manner. We often forget that despite living in the 4D world of our imagination, the channel that ultimately connects us to the infinite us is quite funnily the limited us. So, it's important to not just discard 3D processes to ultimately change our inner world. Say, you're facing the dilemma that you're supposed to believe you're cured, yet you're experiencing negative emotions on a loop. If you believe in therapy and that it will help you, it can perfectly reinforce your 4D meditative practices and supplement it perfectly, rather than contradict. We influence the 4D world of imagination and paint it with the end state, while being in the 3D. You might use your bed, or your chair to go to that theta state, but you aren't really pressing a button and triggering something outside of you. In short, you're using the 3D you to influence the 4D you. I just got diagnosed with OCD yesterday evening. A part of me that always knew it is relieved because lately I've been feeling troubled and have been asking too many questions. I'm careful not to identify with the victim state, all the while knowing that suppressing it isn't going to help me either. Only yesterday, I thought of cancelling the appointment and going crazy with some I am affirmations or listening to some meditation music. But then I remembered that this nuanced sweet spot between two extremes of absolutely ignoring the diagnosis and embodying the victim state. I realized that I have enough trust in myself, and that no matter how severe an earth-shattering revelation the therapist could come up with, it would not demolish my own self-concept and trust of being the operant power. If you scoured YouTube like I did at some point, you'd find many coaches preaching allowing negative emotions. This arguably will work for most people and is way better than arguments supporting toxic positivity. But people like us with mental health disorders are essentially bottomless pits of negative thinking. The cycle doesn't seem to end with just allowing, and so after a month or weeks, we start getting really paranoid that these things might manifest. As a manifestation teacher with OCD, just thinking about something bad triggers this paranoia that something bad is going to happen to me, as it does to many other people. Despite having no actual cause for concern, I frequently worry that I will harm someone close to me, or face jail time, or something to that effect. When this happens, I can't help but imagine the attack in great detail over and over again. For those who aren't familiar with obsessive-compulsive disorder, the O stands for the obsession that has been plaguing my mind non-stop. The more I dwell on it, the more I worry that it will come to fruition in some way. Perhaps in a different world we would be able to recognize this cognitive distortion for what it is, but in a society where manifestation, advice, is constantly doled out by celebrities, influencers, and authors, it is difficult to not feel as though those irrational thoughts are actually founded in truth. Your negative thoughts mostly just create general feelings of negativity, rather than the exact negative reality of your imaginings. You know, how just feeling good for an hour and affirming isn't magically dropping your object of manifestation from the skies. Lucky for us, the reverse is also true. It's one time you might be glad that conscious manifestation could be somewhat of an uphill battle. When you think, that was just a fit, after getting a panic attack, you're essentially pressing the universe's panic button, which can negate 99% of the potential negative charge of manifestation. It's like writing a DRA, featuring email to the universe, and then pressing the delete button at the end. All your efforts went down the drain. But thankfully, in this case, it is working in our favor. OCD most definitely contributes to the overall negativity, but we amplify it when we get paranoid about our paranoia. This becomes an endless loop, a nuclear disaster of poisonous thoughts, if you will. So, even if the choices you have are both less than ideal, you must choose the one that is less debilitating. So, it's between endless uncontrolled obsession and endless uncontrolled obsession regarding your obsession. Funnily enough, this lines up perfectly with the traditional Stoic philosophies that are essentially about ditching perfectionism. I'm in the process of figuring this out myself, so I will not go into too much detail. But this is a good place to start, as it teaches us true acceptance and ditching the concept of perfection, which we're so obsessed with. As someone with OCD or any other issue, the last thing you want is to hold onto the image of perfection. You might say that desperation or holding on to isn't too great for those without a mental health disorder, either. But it makes sense that the average man can get away with obsessing just a little bit more, because it results in an uncontrollable roller coaster of emotions. In the dichotomy between intention and letting go, the latter has always been more difficult to achieve. A manifestor with OCD tries to fight the chaos by either aggressively trying to let go, or aggressively using intention-based practices. Ironically, it is this aggression that is negating the effort. But the great thing about this is that it is this aimless, aggressive nature of your OCD thoughts that's preventing it from coming to fruition. To sum this entire video up, if you can surrender and be okay with something that is less than ideal yet far better relative to its alternative. If you can settle for chaos considering the alternative is even more chaos triggered by the initial chaos, this act of egoless, faith-based surrender is what's going to turn the wheels in your favor.